And hello everybody, and this is a MFC tutorial how to use radio button in Dialog Box. I've already created this project here, and so this is a poll program. We are asking that do you like cats or dogs, and then it prints the result here. Works from here. So there's a radio button, and here we have the radio button group. So do you want to participate the poll? And if answer is yes, we need to get this one here, and then we can say I like cats or dogs, and when I press OK, we get +1 in cat, and then we can run again. If I press OK, nothing happens. Again, and then I say dogs. There we go. So we want to do this one now step by step. I've already done this, but let's go step by step now. I will type this code slowly but surely. So to do this, first we will need to create this MFC SDI project. I've already done this in another lesson. I can put a link below. So I will do this very fast. I will not explain this one because I've already done that. But if you need to know details about this, please go and check the other video. So I'll just do this very quick. Now let's go now and start doing this. So first things first, I have the picture of that here, what we need to do. So first we need to create a group for the radio button. So radio buttons are always in groups, group of one or group of many, but it's always a group. Okay, so let's create the first group. So we need 3 radio buttons. I'm gonna drag one here. Just gonna copy and paste them here like that. Not worried too much about how this looks at this point because it just takes too much time. So do you want to participate the poll? Question mark. And then the user can say yes or no here. Oh well, actually the user can say no, maybe later, and yes, like that. Now let's put the IDs first. Probably always these IDs, they need to have reasonable names. So this is gonna be called how did I call that one? I can call it radio poll. Call it poll. Join poll no. Okay, I just say poll no. Okay, and then this will be obviously the ID of this control will be poll later, and this one will be. Yeah, this is what we always do with these controls, that we put nice names for the IDs. Yes, and enter. There we go. And now the next thing is that let's put the other one here as well. so the idea is that if the user presses yes, then we need to show the other group here that which do you like dogs or cats. But if the user presses one of these, we will keep it invisible. That's the logic, and that makes it a little bit more tricky, but it's good to learn this trick here. So in order to do this trick, that it will only show up here and doesn't show up when we press these two, the way to this can be done in a couple of ways, and I will just show here the easiest way. I think this is the easiest way to do it. It's not necessarily always the best way to do it, but I want to keep it simple this time. So to do this, what we can do is that we can just put that, create a new group here, and let's just put that there first. So that's gonna be called, which one you like more, which one you like more. And then we need two of these buttons, dogs or cats. So this is gonna be cats, and then dogs. Right, going good. And then make it a little bit smaller. And now let's remember the IDs. So let's go and do the IDs next. Radio, like, I don't know how to call this. Let's say like cats. This is gonna be called like dogs. Likes dogs, actually. Is it likes dogs or likes dogs? Better. Likes, yes. I think that's better. Okay, and now what is going to be the logic? Well, the way we can do this is that we will, by default, we will make it invisible. Okay, so the way to do is that we will find the visible. So here's the visible. So I will put that false, and I'll do the same thing for these two. False, and this one also false. So by default they are invisible. Okay, and let's now run this. I think it should launch the dialog box with this one invisible and that one visible. Let's first check it works. So okay, and then Control F5, and here we go. I'll make it a little bit smaller, this action. There we go, and it's invisible, and we can have these ones. Now let's start improving this now. We always need to say that which one is the head of the, which one of these is the head of the group. In this case, this no is the head of this one, and in this case the cats is the head of this one. And the way it works, that we also need to, there are two things. Which one is the head, and the second thing is that we need to put them in tabs order. We need to do the tabs order here. This is very important. So they need to be one after the other, like this. We can also do the OK and 7. So they need to be like this. If we don't do this one, it doesn't work. So the tabs order needs to be such that they are in order 1, 2, 3, and this needs to be, it doesn't need to be 4, 5, it could be like 10, 11, but just make them so that they are kind of following each other like that, in order. And then we will remove that. So now they know that which group they belong to. So this one needs to be group. It needs to have the member group true. So let's go and find that property. So there's the group here. Specifies the first control in the group of controls based on tab order. They say tab order, so that's what they're saying here. So we already did the tab order, so now this one needs to be true, and this also needs to be true, and obviously these ones needs to be false, but they are false by default, so that's okay. So that's done. And next what we need to do is that we need to create a variable for the head. So for this one and this one we need to create a variable. but not for this one. So I go here and add variable, and it's gonna be a value variable m, and I will call it m poll radio poll options. How about poll options? Poll options. And okay, this is very important, not boolean. This needs to be int. I don't know why it puts bool by default, because I actually tested it. I checked it carefully before I started this video, and int bool definitely doesn't work here, because it only accepts int for radio buttons. So place int here and then finished. And now we're gonna do the same thing here. Add variable value, and that one we will call likes cats, dogs, I don't know, something like that. Likes cats or dogs. It's not the best name, but that's not important at this point. So int again and finish. So now we have two variables, and the way it works, that if this variable has value 0, it's this one. If it has value 1, it's this one, and if it has value 2, it's this one. And for the other variable, all the same thing, 0, 1. Let's go now and look at that code. So here we see those two variables here. So if this options is 0, it means that the first one is selected. And so if this is 2, it means that yes is selected. So those variables are now linked to those controls. Now the next thing we need to have here is that I'll change that to 64. 64. Yep. So the next thing what we need to do here is that we will need to, as we saw at the beginning when I started the video, that when we press this one or this one, there should be nothing here. If we click this one, this should be disappeared. This should be visible, and it should disappear if we press these two. So what we can do now is that we can create a so-called event handler for this one, and this one. So when we press these, we can do something. There is a function called event handler where we can do whatever we want to do. So I will create event handlers for all of these three. So if we click this one, it will go to this event handler. So just double click this one. So go and double click this one. It will create the event handler, and it will place it into the dialog class. And this one also double click. So now we have the two event handlers here. When we click those radio buttons, it will go here. And here we can make this one visible or invisible. So, but how can we make these three visible? By default, at the moment, for example, they are invisible. So how can we make them visible? The way to do is that we will create another variable for each of these, which is a so-called control variable. So now we are first time using the control variable. So we can, because these are actually windowses, it's very important to know that these three are windowses. This is a static window, this is a button window, and this is a button window. So we have three windows, and for the windows we can call a function called show window, and we can say show window hide and show window show. So we will create two windows objects, and we will tell that, okay, window hide yourself, window show yourself. We can hide and show windows. So let's do that. So we need to create another variable, and this time it's a control variable, this one, and let's call it control CTRL control, like CTRL like control, and we will call it cats dogs, for example. So it's a button is okay. That's it. And then we need to create one for this. let's create the and now very careful, need to select control here this time. So it's gonna be called is that, yeah, so it's that's the cats. Okay, so I'm gonna call it control cats. Okay, and last one control, and the name of the variable will be this time control dogs. So now we can use those to hide or show them. So let's go now and implement this thing. Okie dokie. So let's go to the go here. Okay, so when we press this yes, which is this one, when we click this one, it goes to this message handler. So let's try now a little bit. I will show this only this one first, so we can see that it works. Okis dokis. So that control, it's gonna be the where is that control? Aha, what's happening here? Cats, dogs. Aha, this was wrong. I forgot to, I did this wrongly. It should be static. I made a mistake here. This should be a static variable. So let's see if I can fix it here manually. I don't always remember what are all the steps. So it goes there, control. Aha, that's, yeah, so I'm gonna now redo this. It's good to learn how to cancel, isn't it? So I'm gonna cancel this cats and dogs because I made a mistake here. It should be C static. So it's in 3 places. I think it's in 3 places. So let's see. Okay, so it's only here. I'm gonna remove that from there. It's done. And I'm gonna remove also it from here. And save. Let's go back now and do it again. So add a variable. So there is the button. That was mistake. So this needs to be C static. Okay. And I'm gonna just double check the. Okay, there's a mistake here as well. This is very tricky. If I made mistake here many times, and we can only really know this if we Google about this error, because it doesn't work. There's one hidden problem here. But I will tell all of you now so that you don't fall to the same problem. So this is a default ID for all static controls. They all get the same ID static, and that's fine if you don't need to do anything for this control. But if you need to change this window, this can't be ID static because it doesn't work. Otherwise the window doesn't work. We need to change it to something else. IDC static is not gonna work if you want to use the control. So let's call it cats, dogs. Okay. And now it should work. And now, oh, did I already create that member variable? Let me go and check this. I already did, and I used the wrong ID, so I'm going to change it manually now. It's here. I think it works now. I just put it manually there, and I hope everything is now correct. So I'm going to compile this. Yeah, succeeded. So that red doesn't mean anything. It did find it. So it's just maybe a bug in the Visual Studio. So let's go now and do it. So when we come here, we want to say that this control needs to hide himself. So show window. And the way it works, that we need to put here SW, like show window, and show. That's how we show a window. Now let's just check that does it work. Yeah, yeehaw, it works. So now we need to do the same thing for the other two guys, which will be very simple because we just need to repeat this for the two windows. Again, these are windows. This is a button window, static window. So they all have this same function. Okay, and let me prove that it works. There we go. And now what we need to do next is that we need to put the logic here that when we click these two, it needs to be invisible. When we go here, visible, and when we go back here, it needs to be invisible. We can do this nicely so that we will create actually a function for this one, because we need to call this many times. We need to call this one many times, sometimes with sw show and sometimes with sw hide. When we need to hide it, we need to say this one. Okay, so how can we do this one? The way we can do is that we can create a helper function which does this one automatically. So I'm gonna do it here in a private section. Let me put that here. A private section function. And let's call it so what is that group? So cats dogs group, and we can show or hide it here. So here we're gonna put the boolean value. Are we showing or hiding? So if this is true, we are showing. If this is false, we are hiding. So now I'm gonna copy this function here and do the implementation here in CPP file. So now we can just copy this, actually move this code, because we're gonna do everything now in the same function. So if this is true, we need to show. If this boolean is false, we need to hide. So we can do it here. Now if we look at the tooltip, it says that int n command show. So I'm gonna use the same name here. Command, what is it? Int command show. Okay, int n command show. I'm just gonna say command show, and so now we can do this nicely here, that we will put the show. This is C++. I'm not gonna too much code. This is C++. So if this is true, we're gonna return show. Otherwise, we're gonna return hide. This is a basic C++ syntax. Okay, so if this show is true, so this section returns a value. If this is true, it will return show. If this is false, it will return hide, and that will be stored into this variable. And now we will pass that variable here, like that. So now we can very nicely call this function from everywhere. So in this case, we need to hide it, right? So we will say false. And if we are pressing the middle button, we need to say also false, and here we need to say true. So yeah, so let's see if it works. Yee-hoo, it works. Now the next thing what we can do here is that we can quickly set the default values. Here is the construction function where we can set the default values for those two groups. So remember that 0 is the first element, and 0 is the first element and 1 is the second, and so on. So this can start from the, let's say start from 1, and this can start from 0. Yeah, from 0. Yeah, that's okay. So what do we need to do next? So next we need to just go to the view, and we just need to use those values now in the view. So let's go now into the view section here, and I've already written that code, so I'm just gonna copy that code now and explain what I'm doing here. So this is what we are going to do. Yeps. Aha, Okay, let's one more thing I forgot to do. Let's forget this for now. One more thing I want to do there, I forgot, that instead of using, where are we? Instead of using zeros and ones, I personally prefer to use constants. So I'm going to create now constants for those values 0, 1, 2 and 0, 1, 2 for both of them. I've already done that, so I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to create constants for all those numbers like this. So join poll no is 0, join poll later is 1, and likes cat 0, likes dogs 1. So instead of using 1 and 0, we are using these constants. I like this way. So this will be 1, so we want to say later there. Put the later there, and this needs to be the first one, which is cats. It's nicer, isn't it? So instead of using 1 and 0, we are using join later likes cats. It's more readable. And yeah. So now let's go now back to here. Is this all good? Oh, one more thing, by the way. One more thing is missing. When we start the program, when the one more thing we need to do is that when we are launch, we run this program. So it's when we're launching the dialog box here. Now, depending where this one is here, this needs to be visible or invisible. So we need to make sure that when we launch the dialog box, this is correctly done. Because at the moment it's not updating this one. I can show you it doesn't work. Let me put this one to 2, just to illustrate this problem. So I'll put it yes, and we know that we should see, if I put here yes, that the first group has value yes, we should see the other group. But let's see if it works. It doesn't work, as I said. It doesn't work because nobody pressed this yes. So we need to, when we first time create the dialog box, we need to initialize it so that we will call this function so that this will be shown here. We can do it in on initialize function. So go to the class view here and select dialog, and then here in properties on the right hand side, press this overrides, and then we're gonna find the initialize function here on init dialog. When we initialize the dialog, we will go there first. Okay, and here we can add the initialization code. So what we need to do is we need to call this show hide function from here. And so is it going to be true, or is it going to be true or false? Are we showing or hiding? Well, it depends on the value. It depends on this one, isn't it? Whatever this value is, we need to hide it or show. So we need to check this value, that what it is. So we will show it if this one is this one. So if it's yes, if the option, the first group option has value yes, then this is true and we will show it. Otherwise, this is false and we will hide it. Let's now check it. There you go. It initializes it correctly. Let's put it back now to later. Okay, now this class is, I think it's done. So let's go to the view now and finish this section. So when the dialog box has finished, then we need to come here and we need to add the counter. We need to have a counter to add cats and dogs. So when somebody chooses dogs, we need to increase the dog counter by 1. If somebody chooses cats, we need to increase the cats counter by 1. In order to do that, we need to go to the view h file and create a private section here. and then we need to have integer counter for cats and integer counter for dogs. And they need to be initialized to 0. So first we have nothing. Like that. Before we do this one, I will print that first. Let me do the print first. So we need to print the value, and do I have it already here? Yeah, I have it here. So I'm just gonna copy paste the code. I already have that to save some time. So we need to draw that thing in onThrow. In order to do that, we need to use this device context, and this is how we can do it. So we will create a string object, and first we don't need the format, by the way. Here we can just assign the value directly. So first we say that poll result so far, and we will print it on the first line, and then we will print on the second line, we will print this cats and dogs. And if we run it now, we get 0, 0. So there we see cats 0, dogs 0. And now we need to increase that counter after we finished the dialog box. So here is the menu event handler for the dialog. So here we are. Okay, so I need to change the name of the variable, of the dialog variable. So, and we have 2 of them now. Okay, so there's the dialog variable. We are launching the dialog, and if the dialog the code blocks here, it waits until the OK is pressed in the dialog box. And if OK was pressed, then we will go inside here, and now we can ask the values. So, okay. So the first value we need to check is the poll option. So if the poll option was yes, if it was yes, then we will add the counter. And now we need to check that what is the value of that. What is the value? Is it cats or dogs? So if it's likes cats, we will increase the cat counter. Otherwise, we will increase the dogs counter. And then we will set that the whole screen needs repainting. And then we say that repaint the window. Okay. So let's see if this works. Okay, 0, 0, and then we're gonna go here and first select nothing, nothing happens, and now we'll say yes, dogs. There it is, dog 1. Yes, and cats, cat 1. Then what? Another cat, 2. Here we go. So it all works. Okay, so the important thing also understand is that so each of these radio buttons, they need to belong to some group. If you have only one button, then you need to that needs to be the group radio button. In this case, this is the group. This is the group button, and this is the group button here. And if we create only a single one here, that should be a group button also if it's alone. Okay, we got it working, and I hope you know more about this radio button now, and I hope this was good for you. Okay, see you next time. Thank you.